Morning, everybody. Welcome to Bottom Line Thursday. Brad Johnson, one of the participants.
Thank you, Brad. Chris Beyer.
Chris Foley. It never gets old. It really doesn't. Every time I have to say, I don't know why Beyer and I cannot start these as well as you.
Yeah, well,
It's not that good.
Seasoned professional.
Really
Brad Johnson,
yes.
seasoned professional.
Yes, my old late night talk show days are coming back to give me.
That's right. So, Brad, you had in your bottom line newsletter a topic on insulin manufacturing, dropping patient prices to $35. I know that's a very timely topic as insulin costs have gone up significantly, and that's a life-saving medication for so many people that are going through that disease. But what did you find out about that process, and kind of what piqued your interest to share that with your newsletter?
Yeah, so first of all, there's a lot of our folks that read the newsletter that are not only obviously in HR, but they may even be taking insulin. And so it's an issue that would come up for a lot of folks. So they have employees that have questions on it. Obviously, insulin is critical for people to get and critical to afford. So they don't have to ration it. And that has been a problem for a number of years. And so the Inflation Reduction Act that was recently passed required that insulin was no more than $35 for those on Medicare Part D. So
Yes.
Seniors, basically. It didn't do anything to require any change on the employer front. So kind of the under 65. So what was interesting, and I'm still learning more about this, and I think all of us can maybe dig a little deeper too, but the big three manufacturers of insulin came out recently and just said, you know what, they'll cap the consumer price of insulin at $35. And at first, a little bit of skeptic in me thought, okay, they're just trying to avoid, some future backlash that'll be coming anyhow. Let's just get in front of it, and then they can be the hero. And maybe there's some of that.
That
But
could be right.
the more I'm reading, it sounds like they were trying to do an end around on the pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, because apparently at $35, these manufacturers can still make good margins on insulin. It was the PBMs that they claim were jacking up the prices to get rebates, to get money back. And so are we starting to see a shift where it's more direct to consumer from the manufacturers versus PBM? Anyhow, so there you go. There's my, that's my start, and I want to hear what you both have to say.
That's a really good thought because, again, typically the federal government will go after the pharmaceutical manufacturing as the reason for high costs. Typically, when they're releasing something new, they put all the research in. I know we bear most of the research costs, but that wasn't necessarily addressed on how much is made from the time that leaves the manufacturer until the time that hits the family's charge at the pharmacy. There's a lot of things tacked on from the pharmacy benefit manager, whomever manages everything from manufacturer releasing it to the consumer, and that can be a ton of money on top of it. Chris, I know you've done a lot of work on this.
A lot of work on this. What's interesting, we had a conversation with Mark Cuban's gentleman who's heading up his $5 pharmacy option, and they are figuring out exactly what we just talked about, and that is, how do we start buying our drugs direct from the manufacturer? How do we get rid of this dumb PBM that is, yes, creating a formulary, which is important, but that doesn't mean that they should take atorvastatin, which takes about 20, well, it's actually 4 cents a pill. So if I get 30 pills, somehow when it comes through on our claims feed, it's coming through as about $110 drug. And it should be about a $2 drug. Now add your $3, dispensing fee or, whatever that is. And so even, somebody as good as Mark Cuban is figuring out, I have to start buying direct from the manufacturers. And I think the manufacturers are sick and tired of being called to Congress to defend high cost drugs when they're like, it's not me.
No, that's really interesting, because I think we found that there's a lot of good PBMs that are very transparent, that will help our clients understand where the costs are and don't add a ton of additional costs to that drug. And then there are some that we know that's a gigantic source of profit, and no PBM is exactly alike. I think that's the other thing, is understanding where that money goes, how it flows through, and then what the end consumer or employer ends up paying.
We need to see this, Brad. I loved it. I love seeing it in your newsletter, because the more of us as consumers continue to complain to the right people, we're going to fix this, but it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, we all know that the drug lobbyists are the largest lobbyists out of all the lobbyists. So they got a lot of money and they don't want to lose their revenue.
They do.
No, that's
And
very
yeah,
true.
I need to go on the record because for years I was a little frustrated with the manufacturers, and I think, well, I still think there's some of that's
Sure,
deserved.
yeah.
I think the PBMs have skirted a lot of the attention until now. Thankfully, it's finally, I think, getting the light shown where it should.
Yeah.
No, good topic. And especially on something that's this urgent for people to have. I think, if insulin starts that charge, that's going to be an important thing.
Exactly.
Well done.
Good topic, Brad.
Thanks,
All right.
Brad. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you.
See you later.